And everyone, and thank you so much for being with me this Saturday. I'm Frederica Whitfield. We begin with what is quickly becoming a life or death situation for the people in Puerto Rico, and President Trump attacking those struggling to survive in a series of tweets from his private golf club this morning. The president says, quote, the mayor of San Juan, who was very complimentary only a few days ago, has now been told by Democrats that you must be nasty to Trump. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. 10,000 federal workers now on island doing a fantastic job. Right now in Puerto Rico, nearly 1.5 million people still have no access to clean drinking water. Some are being forced to fill up jugs in creeks and streams. More than 3 million people still have no electricity and are waiting in line for hours just to get a few gallons of fuel. These are people the most powerful man in the world is verbally attacking, and this is the leader of the president accusing, this is the person rather, that the president is accusing of being nasty to him.
We are dying here, and I cannot fathom the thought that the greatest nation in the world cannot figure out the logistics for a small island of 100 miles by 35 miles long.
We have team coverage on all of this from Puerto Rico to the White House. Let's begin with CNN's Boris Sanchez in San Juan. So, Boris, we'll get to the president's verbal attacks in a moment, but I want to start now with what you've heard from and what we've all heard from the mayor of San Juan after she was begging for help and then the president unleashing.
Yeah, Fred, the situation is improving, though incrementally here in Puerto Rico, and not just because there are several thousand federal workers here, also because the community is coming together. We're in a neighborhood now called Distrito Condado, the Condado District, and there are a lot of senior citizens that live here, and a lot of the buildings that you see behind me. When the power went out, their elevators were rendered useless, so they couldn't go up and down stairs. I just spoke with a group of doctors that were actually going into these high-rises to look after these senior citizens to make sure that they had medication. In many cases, they were running out of things like insulin, so the doctors themselves started pitching in money in order to buy medications for those senior citizens. Neighbors are helping neighbors, Fred, though it is still going slowly. There's a market not far from here, a Walgreens, that remains closed, and people are asking now when it'll finally open in order to get resources into the community. Things like water and food, batteries, because as you mentioned, much of the island still doesn't have electricity. There's a feeling here that there is progress, but that more needs to be done, Fred.
And the president, attacking Puerto Rican officials, saying they have poor leadership abilities and, quote, want everything done for them. What have been people saying?
Yeah, I actually just got finished speaking with a Trump supporter who tells me that she was taken aback by the president's comments. She said that we are just as American as people in Florida and people in Texas. Why is he saying these things about us and not about them? She went on to say that Puerto Rico sends thousands of people every year to serve in the military. Why aren't military officials, more of them, coming here to help Puerto Ricans? She was very emotional about it. Again, this coming from a Trump supporter. I've heard from other people that have said things to me that I cannot repeat to you on the air. And many of them are echoing the idea that these are hurtful comments and they're not in tune with what they are feeling here on the ground. They wanted a kind of different response, a more empathetic take, perhaps, from the President of the United States, Fred.
All right, Boris Sanchez in San Juan. Thank you so much. Puerto Rico is in desperate need of food, water, all kinds of necessities. CNN's Paula Sandoval is live for us now in New York, where people are sending whatever they can to help those on the island.
Fred, if a few people walk into the shot, it's going to be because there are so many people here that are coming together in the heart of the Bronx as folks are trying to gather many of those key items that you just heard from Boris: water, batteries, diapers, and the list goes on and on. Many of these people here in the heart of the Bronx have been here for several hours now. Folks have literally been just driving right up and dropping off large pellets of water, as you're about to see here, and even the smallest little supplies here, again, canned goods, anything that they can get, because as we heard from President Trump, saying that it takes a community effort to try to recover. Well, as Ruben Diaz Jr., the Bronx Borough president, put it, this is that kind of community effort. This is the only way that these communities are going to be able to pull through what's been happening here. Already, at least one large container has already been filled with supplies. Officials here, organizers here, Fred, telling me that they expect at least 2 or 3 more of those containers. The reason why we are here is because it is the Bronx. This is a place where you see some of the one of the largest concentration of Puerto Rican communities in the United States, at least in the New York City area. So this is what we've seen here in the Bronx. Just as we're seeing it here, we're noticing many of those other pockets, communities throughout the country are doing very similar efforts. But again, a very positive outcome here, a very important outcome that we're noticing on the streets of the Bronx, as many people here, Fred, do have relatives and loved ones that are still struggling to survive, really 1,500 miles or so away from where we are.
All right, Polo Sandoval in the Bronx, thank you so much. So not far away in New Jersey, the President of the United States is launching a string of tweets from his private golf club there. CNN's Ryan Nobles is live for us in Branchburg near the President's club. So, Ryan, the President is scheduled to visit Puerto Rico on Tuesday, and now he has also said that the First Lady will be going along with him. Are we hearing anything more from the White House in terms of an itinerary, what his goal is, what he expects to see?
Well, Fred, the president himself tweeting about his visit to Puerto Rico this morning. This was after the flurry of tweets where he was very critical of the mayor of San Juan and critical of the people of Puerto Rico in their efforts to help themselves in this recovery. The president tweeting, "I will be going to Puerto Rico on Tuesday with Melania. We'll hopefully be able to stop at the U.S. Virgin Islands." And then he put in parentheses that people there are working hard. The president, they've yet to explain exactly what his plans are when he gets to Puerto Rico, but the goal here would be for him to see firsthand the devastation of this island that has been hit so hard by Hurricane Maria and has the danger of another round of rain coming in over the weekend. The president really defending his administration's response this morning, suggesting that they're doing everything that they possibly can and that the ability of those resources to get to the people in need are largely the fault of the workers on the ground there. Now, the governor of Puerto Rico pushed back on that criticism a bit, said that his people are doing everything they possibly can. But it's been the mayor of San Juan who suggested that the local people there could really be the conduit between getting those resources from the boats that are coming in to the people that need them the most. There seems to be a breakdown in communication there at some point. Frederica, later this afternoon, the president will have a series of phone calls with the governor of Puerto Rico. He's going to talk to the FEMA administrator, also going to talk to a leader from the U.S. Virgin Islands. The goal there to be to get an understanding as to exactly what the federal government can do better to help this situation. We'll have to see if that results in any change to the effort happening there in Puerto Rico. Fred?
All right, Ryan Nobles, thank you so much in New Jersey. So ahead of the president's visit, the mayor of San Juan appears to be responding to the president's attacks via Twitter. Just a short time ago, the mayor, Carmen Yelin Cruz, tweeting out this picture. That's her in the water, showing her wading through it. You see a bullhorn that she's also carrying there, shaking the hands of the young man who is on that canoe. The mayor with this image with the caption saying, "The goal is one, saving lives." It was the president who said that she was showing poor leadership. All right, the humanitarian crisis in Puerto Rico is gripping the country, but they're not the only island struggling to recover. The U.S. Virgin Islands also hit by back-to-back hurricanes. Here now is CNN's Robin Curnow.
This isn't Puerto Rico, but in the U.S. Virgin Islands, the trail of destruction and suffering are much the same. The US and British Virgin Islands were dealt a 1-2 blow by hurricanes Irma and Maria. Irma during the first week of September, then Maria 2 weeks later. Once pristine, the landscape of the British Virgin Islands is now littered with twisted metal and tangled tree trunks.
Quite frankly, the scene is like something out of a horror movie, very apocalyptic. And also, when you just look at the landscape as well, we've seen the decimation of all green vegetation. You know, everything has gone, basically, so it's pretty stark.
Some 2,000 British military personnel are on the ground in the British Virgin Islands, and more than 100 tons of aid have arrived there. In the US Virgin Islands, residents feel they've been left in the shadows of Puerto Rico's recovery.
We understand Puerto Rico is a much larger island and a lot more populated people there, but we do have our own needs here on the island. We don't see the supplies coming in for us as much as we need them. You know, we hear the planes flying over to Puerto Rico and sending them lots of supplies.
Aid is reaching the US Virgin Islands slowly, complicating the situation. Many goods bound for the Virgin Islands come via also hard-hit Puerto Rico. The US Air Force has flown in communication equipment. The National Guard and FEMA have teams on the ground there. And the Salvation Army is serving food to nearly 5,000 residents daily. Officials say more help is on the way as residents take recovery the only way they can, one day at a time. Robin Kerno, CNN, Atlanta.
All right, still ahead, in the span of 1 week, President Trump launches a war with the NFL, is accused of forgetting about 3 million Americans, loses a cabinet secretary, and faces another stinging defeat in the effort to repeal and replace Obamacare. So how will this weigh on the president's agenda moving forward?